Ladies and gentlemen, I very much appreciate this opportunity to be here. And I know that there's a lot of people that are surprised that I am here, including me, because I normally get paid $200,000 per speech. And you can bet you these cheap asses didn't pony up that kind of money. This whole losing weight actually came about with Chelsea's wedding, which God knows if you'd have seen the picture of her when she was 12, you never would have thought that ever would have happened. But Chelsea, I know you've been seeing this boy for a long time, but before your wedding, I mean, have you been having sex? She says, not according to Dad. I want to give a little historical perspective because my good friend Carla, who I just met, and I would have known her sooner, but she never really sent big checks to my legal defense fund. She said, would you give some historical perspective to these people here of Decatur? They don't see heavy-hitting politicians like you every day. And I said, absolutely. So let's go ahead and get to the basis of this whole thing. We are heading into a political election cycle. And from a historical perspective, I think we should all agree that I was a very good president. You know, you start comparing me to some of the bigger names, the Millard Fillmores and the Chester Arthurs. You're not getting much of this, are you, darling? That's two very obscure former presidents right there, okay? I think we should trade California for China. You kind of like that, don't you? I think that if we were to do this, and when you think about the way this would all work out, because China, you know, you got a bunch of flaky people. You know, they're completely in debt. They ain't got any money. And so we'd get them off our books, and we'd get rid of all that. And if you think of it, if all of a sudden we have China as our 50th state, we don't have to change the flags. That means there's 50 stars on there. And the most important part is, if we get rid of California but keep China, the number of foreigners in this country stays roughly the same. I want to talk to you about the situation with Osama Bin Laden. Every time I've been going, you know, around doing interviews, they say, what do you think about this deal with Osama Bin Laden? You know, Navy SEALs busted in there and shot him in the head. I say, what's the big deal? Dick Cheney was shooting people in the face 10 years ago. Everybody's saying to me, what would you do? You know, what would you have done to take care of Osama Bin Laden? I can tell you what, it wouldn't have taken me 10 years. 10 years, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, come on. You're talking about one of 3 houses in Pakistan that actually has electricity. Running water, and the barbed wire and the razor fence didn't give it away. Somehow nobody knew about this. And everybody says, what would you have done different? I'll tell you what, I would have brought in an elite group of specialists. Men who are trained to seek out and find the unfindable. The Gideons. Now, some of you people laugh. If you've ever been to an obscure place, you can go to the Best Western in Yazoo City, Mississippi. And you're thinking to yourself, who finds this motel? And you know what, when you check into your room and you go to that nightstand right next to the bed, what do you find? The Gideons have been there. If I had been president and we were looking for Osama Bin Laden, he'd been found in less than a week. I would have brought in the Gideons and I would have said one simple thing. Gentlemen, Osama Bin Laden has opened a Motel 6 somewhere in the Middle East. I got to tell you, if the Republicans want to win, they got to do one simple thing. It's very, very simple what the Republicans need to do. They need to take a cue from the Democrats. Find a guy with no real credentials and just use a lot of buzz phrases like hope and change. Some of you chuckle, but it worked for me. Remember that thing? I still believe in a place called hope. You guys remember that? We don't even know what that meant, but people fell for it. Worked for Obama, hope and change. It would have worked for Al Gore. But you know what Al Gore did? Instead of just using silly buzz phrases, he started talking about issues like global warming. That's why he lost Florida. People in Florida don't mind global warming. They moved there to be hot. I'm going to tell you something funny about Barack Obama. He had to pander a little bit. He went and got him a dog a year or so ago. You guys remember that? He got a Portuguese Water Dog. I don't even know what that means. You know, Portuguese Water Dog sounds like something Michael Phelps smokes his marijuana out of. Me and George W. Bush were getting ready to tape a segment on 60 Minutes. That's a TV show for old people. And they said, what do you think about this Portuguese Water Dog? And George W. says, why couldn't he get an American dog? Like a German Shepherd. Barack Obama actually turned to me and he says, "Whatever happened to your White House dog?" I said, "You hired her." Joe Budden, he's a pompous ass. I actually don't have any jokes about that. That's just my opinion right there. Rumors are always going around. You remember a few years ago the rumor that I was dating supermodels? I started that one.
What would you do if you were still president given the current global situation?
Thank you. If I was president right now, with all that's going on, I'd be drunker than a monkey. The truth is, I was half the time anyhow. Hell, I'm drunk right now.
Mr. President, could you give me some insight to the Afghan people?
The question was about the Afghan people, and I think when you look at them Afghan people, and I've thought about this a lot, I honestly believe their problems begin and end with their blankets. That'd be Afghan blankets. Anybody in this room that's ever spent the night at their grandmother's must understand how difficult it is to stay warm with a 4-foot piece of yarn that's got them holes all over. I have honestly never believed that the Afghan people want a war. I think they mostly just want a nice down comfort. Perhaps a wool blanket.
What are your thoughts on the Tea Party movement?
Thank you. I think the Tea Party people are extremely angry. I mean, extremely angry. And I don't blame them. I mean, who the hell ever heard of having a party where you only serve tea? So, I mean, like, I was thinking about this. I'd be mad, too, if they said, "Hey, you know, we're all mad because we're paying too many taxes. Here's a cup of tea." I think if they could, and they would definitely get more people in their party if they would call themselves the Long Island Iced Tea Party. I might even join them then, to be honest with you.
How are things with the Clinton Library?
Well, I appreciate you asking me. This is something that's one of my proudest achievements of all my life. I did something that no politician's ever done or tried or accomplished. I built a library in Arkansas. I mean, and we had naysayers, you know, as soon as we built the thing, they said, "Hey, it looks like a double wide on stilts." Yes. Trying to catch people on the way home. Maybe they're kind of boozed up. Just go there by accident. And we had all kinds of people criticize, and then, you know, if things couldn't get any worse, the first day we were open, thieves broke in, stole our book. I remember when I was president, I went to India, the first sitting president to go to India. And when I got there, there's always a translation issue, but I've always been able to communicate with people. I got there, and they said, "Welcome to India, Mr. President. When you're here, do you feel the effects of Mohandas Gandhi?" And I said, "Sure, but I take a shot of penicillin, it clears it right up." Some people look like their name. When you look at Newt Gingrich, I don't even know what a newt is. But it looks like him. When you look at Mr. Romney, you don't think of an old leather mitt. But when you look at Hillary, you think of an old leather mitt. Ladies and gentlemen, you're wonderful people. You're a wonderful audience. I thank you very much for having me. Good night.